I'm Daniel, a 42-year-old architect with a penchant for clean lines and ordered spaces. My life with Claire, my wife of 15 years, was much like my designs. Structured, elegant, predictable. We lived in a sleek, modern house in Portland, its glass walls reflecting the misty pines. Claire, a curator at a local gallery, filled our home with vibrant art, her laughter a counterpoint to my quiet focus. Our daughter, Lily, 12, was our shared masterpiece, her wit a blend of Claire's charm and my precision. Life felt complete, a blueprint executed flawlessly. But blueprints don't show hairline fractures. It started subtly. Claire's phone buzzed more often, her fingers dancing over the screen with a secretive smile. She'd laugh, say it was a colleague, but her eyes wouldn't meet mine. Our evenings, once filled with shared wine and debates about art versus function, grew sparse. She'd linger at the gallery, claiming late shipments or donor meetings. I trusted her. Why wouldn't I? Claire was my constant, the woman who'd sketched my portrait on our first date, capturing my guarded heart. Yet, the air in our home shifted, like a draft from an unseen gap. I noticed her new perfume, sharp and unfamiliar, clinging to her scarf. Her wardrobe changed, tighter dresses, bolder colors. She'd always been stylish, but this felt performative, like she was dressing for someone else's gaze. I'd ask about her day, and her answers were vague, her voice clipped. At night, she'd turn away, her back a wall I couldn't scale. I told myself it was stress, the gallery's expansion, Lily's looming teenage years. But doubt, like damp rot, crept into my foundation. One evening, I found her in the kitchen, texting furiously, her face flushed. When I asked who it was, she snapped her phone shut, claiming it was a client. Her defensiveness was a blade, slicing through my calm. I didn't push. Daniel the architect doesn't break harmony. But that night, I lay awake, her steady breathing beside me a lie. The man I was logical, composed, began to fray. I needed proof, not suspicion. So, I did something I'd never imagined. I checked her phone while she showered. The passcode was Lily's birthday. The messages were not from a client. His name was Ethan, a sculptor whose work Claire had curated. Their texts were a gallery of betrayal. Intimate, playful, brazen. "Miss you at the studio," he wrote. "Wear the red dress tomorrow," he urged. My stomach churned, but I read on, each word a hammer to my carefully built world. They'd been meeting for months in her office, his loft, even a hotel. My Claire, my wife, had carved a secret life, and I was the fool sketching blueprints for a home already crumbling. The knowledge sat in my chest like wet concrete, heavy and unyielding. I didn't confront Claire that morning. Couldn't. My mind, trained to solve structural flaws, needed a plan, not chaos. I kissed Lily's forehead as she left for school, waved at Claire as she rushed out, her red dress a taunt. She didn't notice my silence, or maybe she did and chose to ignore it. I called in sick, something I hadn't done in years, and sat in my study, staring at the blueprints on my desk. They mocked me, perfect lines, useless against human deceit. I dug deeper. Her laptop, left open, was a Pandora's box. Emails to Ethan revealed plans for a weekend work trip to Seattle. Photos in her cloud showed them at a bar, her hand on his arm, his smile too close. There was a video, a fleeting clip of them dancing, her head on his shoulder. I watched it on loop, each frame etching her betrayal into me. This wasn't a fling. It was a parallel life. Ethan, with his tousled hair and artist swagger, had claimed a piece of Claire I thought was mine alone. I cross-referenced their messages with her gallery schedule. She'd lied about late nights, about trips. The gallery's donor events were real, but Ethan was there, his sculptures the centerpiece, his presence her excuse. I found his address in her notes, a loft downtown, all exposed brick and ego. I drove there, not sure why. His building was gritty, alive with the hum of creativity. I sat in my car, imagining her there, laughing, shedding the wife I knew. A woman exited, her scarf Claire's, but it wasn't her. My relief was bitter. I was already a stranger in my own life. Back home, I played the dutiful husband. I cooked dinner, asked Lily about her day, smiled at Claire's stories about a difficult artist. Her lies were artful, her face serene. But I saw the tells now, her quick glances at her phone, the way she'd pause before answering me. I wondered how long she'd planned to juggle us, how long I'd been the placeholder. The man I was, patient, trusting, wanted to scream to shatter her composure. But I held back. Revenge, I realized, wasn't an outburst. It was a design, precise and devastating. That night I began to sketch, not buildings but a plan. I'd expose her, not with anger, but with a cruelty that matched her deceit. I'd dismantle her world as methodically as she'd dismantled mine. Ethan would be part of it, his smug artistry turned to ash. Claire would learn that betrayal has a cost, and I, the quiet architect, would be its collector. The blueprint was forming, and it was beautiful in its ruthlessness. Days passed, and I wore my mask well. Claire didn't suspect my knowledge, or if she did, her arrogance hid it. She moved through our home with the ease of someone untouchable, her laughter a blade twisting in me. I played along, asking about her day, nodding at her lies about gallery meetings. Lily, oblivious, filled the silence with stories of school, her innocence a reminder of what Claire was risking. I watched my wife, cataloging her habits, her tells, her weaknesses. She was a puzzle I'd solved long ago, but now I saw the flaws in her design. I researched Ethan. His social media was a shrine to himself. Photos of his sculptures, his loft, his life. He was 35, charismatic, with a following of adoring collectors. Claire appeared in his posts, subtle but undeniable. Her hand holding a wine glass, her silhouette at an opening. His fans commented, speculating about the curator. I saved every post, every comment, building a dossier of their affair. I hacked into her gallery's email system. Her password was predictable, Lily's name again, and found invoices for Ethan's work, inflated payments that smelled of favors. She was funding him, funneling our money into his art. I tailed her one evening, something I'd never imagined doing. She told me she was meeting a donor, but I followed her to Ethan's loft. Parked across the street, I watched her slip inside, her red dress a beacon. They didn't draw the curtains. Through the window, I saw her laugh, her hand on his chest. He poured wine, his fingers brushing hers. I didn't need to see more. The image was acid, burning away the last of my denial. I drove home, my hands steady on the wheel, my mind a furnace of plans. I began to plant seeds. At dinner, I'd mention Ethan casually, noting his latest sculpture's buzz. Claire's face would tighten, her smile forced. I'd ask about her work trips, watching her scramble for lies. I invited her colleagues over, knowing she'd squirm at the risk of exposure. She played it off, but I saw the cracks. Her nervous laugh, her quick exits to text. I was eroding her confidence, brick by brick, and she didn't even know it. Lily noticed the tension, asking why mommy was weird. I hugged her, promising everything would be fine, hating Claire for making me lie. My revenge took shape. It wouldn't be loud or messy. It would be surgical, a collapse she'd never see coming. I'd expose her to her world, her colleagues, her donors, her precious art scene. Ethan would lose his reputation, his patrons, his loft. Claire would lose more, her career, her pride, her family. I'd make sure Lily knew her mother's choices, not to hurt her, but to protect her from Claire's lies. The architect in me smiled. This was my greatest design yet. I became a ghost in my own life, observing, plotting, waiting. Claire's affair was a performance, and I was its unseen critic, noting every misstep. She grew careless, leaving her phone unlocked, her laptop open. I found more texts about a special night at a coastal cabin, receipts for lingerie I'd never seen. Each discovery was a nail in the coffin of our marriage, but I didn't flinch. I was past pain into purpose. My revenge wasn't just for me. It was for Lily, for the life Claire had mocked with her selfishness. I contacted a private investigator, a discreet man named Paul with a knack for uncovering dirt. I gave him Ethan's name, Claire's schedule, and a stack of cash. Paul didn't ask questions. He delivered. Within days he had photos, Claire and Ethan at a cafe, their hands entwined. Claire entering his loft at midnight. A blurry shot of them kissing in a parked car. He also dug into Ethan's finances, debts, unpaid taxes, a history of fleecing wealthy patrons. Claire wasn't his first mark, just his latest. The information was ammunition, and I was loading the gun. I began to manipulate the gallery's world. Using a burner email, I sent anonymous tips to Claire's colleagues, hinting at unprofessional conduct with a certain sculptor. I didn't name her, not yet, just enough to stir whispers. At a gallery event I attended, I overheard her assistant mention rumors about favoritism. Claire's face, when she thought no one was watching, was a mask of panic. I smiled, offering her wine, my voice warm. She didn't suspect me, the steady husband, the man who'd never raised his voice. That was her mistake. I hacked Ethan's social media, a simple phishing trick to get his password. I didn't post anything too crude. Instead, I studied his network, his patrons, his upcoming shows. He was planning a major exhibition, bankrolled by Claire's gallery. I contacted his key donors anonymously, posing as a concerned insider, leaking his financial troubles and inappropriate relationships. Two pulled funding within days, citing reputational risks. Ethan's frantic text to Claire, which I read via her phone, showed his panic. She promised to fix it, her loyalty to him a betrayal of us. At home, I kept the facade. I helped Lily with homework, cooked Claire's favorite meals, even suggested a family vacation. She agreed, distracted, her mind clearly elsewhere. I watched her unravel, her confidence fraying as her secret life bled into her public one. My plan was a symphony, each note building to a crescendo. The exhibition would be the stage. Claire's pride, Ethan's ambition, all poised to collapse. I'd make sure everyone saw, not just me. The architect in me was calm. The husband was a furnace, ready to burn. The exhibition was 2 weeks away, and I was ready. Claire was a whirlwind, organizing, promoting, oblivious to the noose tightening. Ethan's show was her crowning achievement, a bold collection of sculptures that had critics buzzing. She'd poured our savings into it, calling it an investment. I let her, knowing it would be her ruin. My plan was complete, a machine of precise parts. Exposure, humiliation, consequences. I'd destroy her world without raising my voice, and she'd never see it coming. Paul, the investigator, delivered the final pieces. He'd recorded Claire and Ethan at the cabin. Their voices clear, their intimacy undeniable. The audio was raw, her laughter a sound I'd once loved, now twisted with his. Paul also found Ethan's ex-patron, a wealthy widow he'd conned, who was eager to speak out. I arranged for her to attend the exhibition, primed to confront him publicly. I leaked more to the gallery's board, financial discrepancies tied to Claire's payments to Ethan. They were investigating quietly at my suggestion. I orchestrated the guest list. Critics, donors, Claire's colleagues, even her parents, who adored her. I invited Lily's art teacher, knowing she'd bring Lily, who deserved to see her mother's truth, however painful. I'd shield her from the worst, but not the lesson. Using Ethan's hacked accounts, I sent cryptic posts, hinting at big reveals at the show. His followers speculated wildly, amplifying the buzz. Claire thought it was his marketing. I knew it was her downfall. At home, I was the perfect husband. I complimented Claire's work, helped with invitations, even framed a photo of us for her desk, a reminder of what she'd thrown away. She was distracted, snapping at Lily, ignoring my questions. Her stress was my doing, and I savored it. I met with a lawyer, quietly preparing for divorce, ensuring Lily's future. The house, the savings, she'd get nothing. My revenge wasn't just emotional. It was financial, social, total. The night before the exhibition, I tested the waters. I asked Claire about Ethan casual, watching her freeze. She lied, saying he was just an artist. I nodded, smiling, my heart cold. I finalized the plan. During Ethan's speech, I'd play the audio through the gallery's sound system, hacked remotely. The widow would confront him, the board would question Claire, and the photos would hit social media, tagged to every critic and donor. Claire's career, Ethan's reputation, their affair. All would combust in one night. I slept soundly, the architect triumphant, the husband avenged. Tomorrow my design would stand, and theirs would fall. The morning of the exhibition, our house was a theater of false calm. Claire rushed around, her phone glued to her ear, coordinating last-minute details. She wore a black dress, elegant but sharp, like a blade. I watched her, my face a mask of support, while inside, I was a conductor tuning an orchestra of ruin. Lily, sensing the tension, asked why Mommy was so jumpy. I hugged her, promising a fun night at the gallery, my voice steady. Claire didn't notice. Her world was Ethan's show, not us. That was her final mistake. I spent the day finalizing my plan. Paul, the investigator, sent me the audio file, cleaned and ready, her voice entwined with Ethan's in damning clarity. I tested the gallery's sound system hack. Remote access was child's play for a tech-savvy architect. The file would play during Ethan's speech, untraceable to me. I emailed the photos to a burner account, scheduled to post across social media at the perfect moment, tagged to every critic, donor, and gallery board member. The widow, Margaret, confirmed she'd attend, her anger at Ethan a wildfire I'd stoked with proof of his scams. I drove to the gallery early, offering to help Claire set up. She was distracted, barely acknowledging me as I adjusted lighting and checked the sound system, ensuring my hack was flawless. Ethan was there, his arrogance palpable, directing staff like a king. He shook my hand, his grip too firm, his smile a challenge. I smiled back, imagining his face when the audio played. Claire flitted between us, her eyes avoiding mine, her laughter forced. I saw the cracks in her facade, the strain of juggling lies. I left them to their preparations, my heart a furnace of cold purpose. Back home, I dressed for the evening, crisp suit, polished shoes, the architect of vengeance. I helped Lily pick a dress, her excitement a bittersweet ache. I'd shield her from the worst, but she'd see enough to understand her mother's choices. As we drove to the gallery, I rehearsed my role. The supportive husband, shocked by the revelations, comforting his daughter. The lie was bitter but necessary. Claire's betrayal had rewritten our family's blueprint, and I was merely balancing the scales. At the gallery, the crowd was electric. Critics, collectors, Portland's art elite. Claire glowed, welcoming guests, her arm brushing Ethan's too often. I mingled, shaking hands, my smile a perfect facade. Margaret arrived, her eyes sharp, ready to confront. The board members whispered, their investigation simmering. Lily clung to my side, awed by the sculptures. I glanced at my watch. Ethan's speech was in 30 minutes. My design was in motion, every piece aligned. The architect in me was calm. The husband was ready to watch it burn. The gallery buzzed with anticipation as Ethan took the stage, his voice smooth, his charm a magnet. Claire stood nearby, beaming, her pride in him a knife in my gut. The crowd applauded his opening remarks, praising his vision. I stood at the back, Lily beside me, my phone in my pocket, the trigger ready. I'd programmed the audio to play through the gallery speakers at the peak of his speech, a crescendo of betrayal for all to hear. My heart was steady, my resolve iron. Ethan spoke of art, passion, collaboration, words that mocked my marriage. Claire nodded along, her eyes bright, oblivious to the storm. I scanned the room. Margaret, poised like a hawk. The board members, their faces tight. The critics, phones ready to capture the night. Lily tugged my sleeve, asking about a sculpture. I whispered it was beautiful, my voice calm, my mind ablade. The moment came, Ethan's voice rose, thanking his muse. I pressed the button. The speakers crackled. Then Claire's voice filled the room, laughing, intimate, unmistakable. "You make me feel alive, Ethan," she said, followed by his murmur. Their words a private dance made public. The crowd froze, gasps rippling. Ethan faltered, his face paling. Claire's smile vanished, her eyes darting to the speakers. then to me. I met her gaze, my expression blank, the devastated husband. The audio continued, her teasing, his promises, a hotel room mentioned. The room was a mausoleum of shock. Margaret stepped forward, her voice cutting through the silence. "Ethan, you liar!" she shouted, accusing him of fraud, her words venomous. She held up documents, his forged invoices, emailed to her by my anonymous account. The crowd murmured, phones flashing, capturing the chaos. Claire rushed to Ethan, whispering frantically, but the damage was done. Social media pinged with my scheduled posts. Photos of them, undeniable, spreading like wildfire. Critics typed furiously, donors turned away. The board members huddled, their faces grim. Lily clutched my hand, confused, whispering, "Why's Mommy's voice there?" I knelt, saying it was a mistake, we'd talk later. My heart ached for her, but Claire's choices had brought us here. I guided Lily to her teacher, asking her to take her outside. As they left, Claire's eyes met mine again, pleading, but I turned away. The gallery was a battlefield. Ethan's career in ruins, Claire's reputation shattered. My design was flawless, but the architect in me felt no joy, only the cold satisfaction of justice. The husband, though, was just beginning to savor the wreckage. The gallery descended into chaos. A symphony of whispers, accusations, and clinking glasses abandoned on tables. Ethan stood frozen, his speech forgotten, as Margaret's tirade echoed. She waved her documents, detailing his financial scams, her voice a whip cracking through his charisma. Critics scribbled notes, their earlier praise now venom. Donors, faces flushed with betrayal, demanded answers from Claire, who stood like a statue, her black dress a shroud. I watched from the edges, my role the grieving husband, my heart a forge of controlled rage. Claire tried to salvage it, her voice trembling as she addressed the crowd, claiming a misunderstanding, but the audio looped in their minds, her intimacy with Ethan undeniable. The board members pulled her aside, their questions sharp, their trust eroded by my leaks. I saw her glance at me, searching for an ally, but I offered nothing. She'd built this ruin, and I was merely the architect who'd exposed its flaws. Social media was ablaze. My photos had gone viral, tagged with #GalleryScandal, each retweet a nail in her coffin. Ethan, cornered by donors, stammered excuses, his charm crumbling. A critic asked about the muse, and the crowd jeered. He fled to the back, Claire following, their alliance fracturing under scrutiny. I stayed, shaking hands, accepting condolences from guests who assumed I was as shocked as they were. "Poor Daniel," they whispered, their pity a bitter pill. I nodded, my face a mask, while inside, I tallied the damage. Ethan's exhibition canceled, his patrons gone. Claire's career teetering, her lies exposed. I stepped outside to find Lily with her teacher, drawing in a notebook, her face clouded. I thanked the teacher, took Lily's hand, and drove her home. She asked about Mommy, her voice small. I said Mommy made mistakes, but we'd be okay. My words careful, my heart heavy. At home, I tucked her in, promising answers tomorrow. Claire's absence was a void, her phone off, her whereabouts unknown. I didn't care. She was reaping what she'd sown. I checked social media, the scandal was trending, articles already forming. My burner account was untraceable, my tracks covered. Back in my study, I poured whiskey, the first drink I'd allowed myself since this began. The architect in me reviewed the design. Every piece had worked, audio, photos, Margaret, the board. Ethan's loft would be repossessed, his debts called in. Claire's gallery would fire her, her reputation ash. But the husband in me felt the cost. Lily's confusion, our fractured family. Revenge was precise, but it wasn't clean. I sipped, staring at our wedding photo, her smile a ghost. The night was mine, but tomorrow, I'd face the wreckage. Claire returned at dawn, her face haggard, her dress wrinkled. I was in the kitchen, coffee brewing, the house silent except for Lily's soft snores upstairs. Claire froze when she saw me, her eyes red, her defiance gone. I didn't speak, just poured a second cup and slid it across the counter. She sat, hands trembling, and tried to explain. A mistake, a moment of weakness, Ethan's charm. Her words were hollow, a script she'd rehearsed but couldn't sell. I listened, my face stone, my silence a blade. She asked how the audio leaked, her voice cracking. I shrugged, saying the gallery's system must have been hacked. My lie seamless. She didn't suspect me. She was too busy drowning in her own guilt. I asked about Ethan, my tone neutral, and she flinched, admitting they'd been close for months. Close, a euphemism for betrayal. I didn't yell. I didn't need to. My calm was crueler, a mirror to her chaos. She begged for forgiveness, for Lily, for us. I said nothing, letting her words hang like smoke. I laid out the consequences, my voice even. The gallery had suspended her, pending an investigation. Donors were pulling funds. Critics were shredding her name. Ethan's show was canceled, his debts exposed, his loft under foreclosure. She, among other things, her tears were crocodile tears, her pleas ignored. I mentioned Lily, my voice steady, and she crumbled, sobbing, but I felt no pity, only the weight of her choices. I told her to leave, to pack a bag and go, anywhere but here. She hesitated, mentioning Lily, but I cut her off. Lily was my priority, not hers. She'd lost that right. She left, her footsteps fading, the door clicking shut. I checked on Lily, still asleep, her face peaceful. I vowed to protect her, to rebuild our blueprint without Claire's flaws. I called my lawyer, finalizing the divorce papers. The house, the savings, Claire would get nothing. I'd sell the glass-walled prison, move somewhere new, a fresh design for Lily and me. The scandal was still trending, Claire's name mud, Ethan's career dust. My revenge was complete, but the architect in me saw the cost. A family fractured, a daughter's trust shaken. I sat in my study, the whiskey bottle empty, and planned the next steps. A new life, a stronger foundation, built on truth. Days turned to weeks, and the scandal's heat faded, but its scars remained. Claire moved to a small apartment, her gallery job gone, her social circle vanished. She called, begging to see Lily, but I set strict terms, supervised visits, no excuses. Lily was confused, angry, but I was honest, in doses she could handle. Mommy made bad choices, hurt our family, but I'd always be here. We started therapy, a space to rebuild her trust, to mend her heart. She was strong, like me, and I saw her resilience grow. I sold the house, its glass walls too full of ghosts. We moved to a cozy craftsman in a quiet neighborhood. Its warm wood a balm. I redesigned the space for Lily. Bright walls, a reading nook, a garden she could tend. My work thrived, new projects pouring in, my reputation untouched by Claire's mess. Ethan's name vanished from the art world, his loft seized, his debts crushing him. I heard he left Portland, a broken man. I felt no pity, he'd built his own ruin. Claire's parents reached out, apologetic, offering support for Lily. I accepted, for her sake, but kept them at arm's length. They'd enabled Claire's charm, blind to her flaws. I focused on Lily's school, her art classes, her laughter returning in small bursts. We cooked together, built forts, watched old movies. The architect in me designed a new life, each day a brick in a stronger foundation. I didn't date, didn't want the distraction. My heart, once Claire's, was Lily's now. The pain of betrayal lingered, but it fueled me, not consumed me. I framed a new photo, Lily and me at the coast, laughing, the ocean vast behind us. It hung in our living room, a reminder of what mattered. The husband in me mourned, but the architect stood tall, his greatest design a life rebuilt, unyielding, true. Months passed, and the world moved on, but Claire's shadow lingered like damp rot in an old beam. I'd built a new life for Lily and me, our craftsman home a sanctuary of warmth and routine. Yet, I couldn't ignore the ripples of my revenge. Claire's name was still whispered in Portland's art circles, not with admiration but with pity or scorn. Ethan had vanished entirely, rumored to be scraping by in some coastal town. His sculptures unsold, his charm worthless. My design had worked too well, perhaps. The architect in me marveled at its precision. The husband wondered at its cost. Lily was thriving, her grades strong, her art bold. Therapy helped her process Claire's betrayal, though she still asked why Mommy chose him. I answered carefully, balancing truth and protection. Claire's visits were tense, her attempts at warmth stilted. Lily was polite but distant, her trust fractured. I watched silent, ensuring Claire followed my rules. She'd lost her right to spontaneity, to motherhood's ease. Each visit was a reminder of her fall, and I saw it in her eyes. Regret, but no redemption. I kept tabs on her, not out of care but caution. Paul, the investigator, sent updates. Claire worked at a small bookstore, her curator days over. Her apartment was cramped, her social media silent. She tried to rebuild, but the scandal clung to her like ash. I felt no guilt. She'd chosen Ethan, chosen lies. Yet, a small part of me, the man who'd loved her, grieved the woman she'd been, the one who'd sketched my portrait with such care. One evening, a former colleague of Claire's, Sarah, contacted me. She'd been at the exhibition, seen the collapse. Over coffee, she revealed the gallery's board had suspected Claire's favoritism before my leaks, but my evidence had forced their hand. Sarah didn't know I was behind it, only that the hack had been a masterstroke. I nodded, sipping my coffee, my face neutral. She asked how I was coping, her tone kind. I said Lily was my focus, deflecting her pity. Driving home, I realized my revenge had made me a ghost in my own story, known but unknowable. That night, I sat in my study, sketching a new project, a community center, all open spaces and light. It was my way forward, a design for others, not destruction. Lily's laughter drifted from the living room, where she watched a movie. I smiled, but the weight of my actions pressed down. Revenge had been necessary, but it had carved something out of me. A softness, a trust. I vowed to rebuild that too, for Lily's sake, for mine. The architect planned. The husband healed, slowly. A year after the exhibition, life felt steady, like a building settled on firm ground. Lily was 13 now, her wit sharper, her art a blaze of color. We'd found a rhythm, school, dinners, weekend hikes. I was designing again, my community center project gaining buzz. Claire's visits were less frequent, her presence a faint echo. I thought the past was buried, but betrayal, like bad wiring, can spark unexpectedly. One Saturday, a knock came at our door. I opened it to find Margaret, the widow who'd confronted Ethan at the exhibition. Her silver hair was pulled back, her eyes sharp but weary. She asked to talk, her voice low. I invited her in, curious but guarded. Lily was at a friend's, the house quiet. Margaret sat, clutching a manila envelope, and began to speak. She'd been digging into Ethan's past, driven by her own anger, and found something she thought I deserved to know. The envelope held documents, bank records, emails, contracts. Ethan hadn't just conned her. He'd targeted Claire deliberately, knowing her influence at the gallery. He'd done it before, seducing curators to fund his work, then discarding them. Claire wasn't his muse. She was his mark. Margaret's voice softened as she described Claire's naivety, her desperation to be seen as more than a wife, a mother. Ethan had exploited that, weaving a fantasy she couldn't resist. I listened, my face still, but inside, a crack formed. Claire's betrayal was her choice, but Ethan's manipulation added a layer I hadn't seen. Margaret wasn't defending her. She called Claire reckless, but she thought I should know the full story. She left the envelope, saying she'd moved on, but I hadn't struck her as a man who could. Her words stung, a mirror to my lingering anger. I thanked her, my voice tight, and saw her out. Alone, I read the documents. Ethan's emails to Claire were calculated, each word a hook. He'd studied her, knew her insecurities, her ambitions. I hated her for falling, but I saw her vulnerability, the woman I'd loved before the lies. My revenge had crushed them both, but Margaret's visit stirred a question. Had I punished a pawn as harshly as the player? I pushed it aside, focusing on Lily, on our new life. Yet, the architect in me began to sketch a new plan. Not revenge, but closure, a way to seal the past without more wreckage. Margaret's visit gnawed at me, a splinter I couldn't ignore. I didn't pity Claire, but Ethan's role as the predator shifted the blueprint. He'd slithered away, leaving Claire to bear the scandal's weight, while I'd aimed my wrath at both. The architect in me demanded balance, a final adjustment to the design. I decided to find him not for violence, but for truth, a reckoning to close the wound. Paul tracked Ethan to a rundown studio in Astoria, a fishing town 2 hours away. He was teaching art classes, scraping by, his name mud. I drove there on a rainy weekend, telling Lily I had a work trip. The studio was a converted warehouse, its walls lined with half-finished sculptures, echoes of his old arrogance. Ethan was thinner, his hair grayer, but his eyes still held that predatory glint. He didn't recognize me at first, not until I said Claire's name. His smirk faded. I didn't shout, didn't threaten. I laid out what I knew, his scams, his manipulation, the women before Claire. I showed him Margaret's documents, my voice cold, precise. He tried to deflect, claiming Claire pursued him, but his excuses crumbled under my stare. I told him how I'd dismantled his life, the leaks, the donors, the foreclosure. His face twitched, fear replacing bravado. He hadn't known I was behind it, thought it was bad luck. I asked why Claire, why us? He shrugged, admitting she was an easy target. Ambitious, lonely, married to a stiff like me. His cruelty was casual, a craftsman discussing his tools. I wanted to break him, but I didn't. Instead, I gave him a choice. Leave Oregon, never contact Claire again, or I'd send Margaret's documents to every art community on the coast. He nodded, defeated, knowing I'd follow through. I left, the rain washing away his presence, my heart oddly lighter. Driving back, I realized confronting Ethan wasn't about him. It was about me. I'd needed to see the man who'd unraveled my life, to know he was small, not mythic. Claire's betrayal was still hers, but Ethan's role clarified her fall. I wouldn't forgive her, but I could let go of the rage. The architect in me saw a new design, a life unburdened by vengeance, built for Lily, for peace. Back home, I focused on Lily, her laughter my anchor. But Claire's next visit brought a shift. She looked worn, her bookstore job draining her spark. Lily hugged her, tentative, and I saw a flicker of the old Claire, the mother, not the traitor. After Lily went to bed, Claire lingered, asking to talk. I agreed, not for her, but for the closure Margaret's visit had stirred. We sat in the kitchen, the space between us a chasm. She didn't beg or lie. She admitted everything. Ethan's charm, her loneliness, her shame. She'd been lost, she said, craving validation I couldn't give. Her words weren't excuses, just truths, raw and late. I listened, my face unreadable, and shared what I'd learned about Ethan's schemes. Her eyes widened, then dulled, realizing she'd been played. For the first time, I saw her not as my enemy, but as a woman who'd fallen hard. I didn't soften, but I offered a deal. Consistent visits with Lily, therapy for them both, no more lies. I'd never trust her again, but Lily deserved a mother, flawed or not. She nodded, tears falling, promising to try. I warned her one misstep and she'd lose even this. She left, quieter, her steps heavier. I didn't feel triumph, only relief, like sealing a crack in a wall. Lily noticed the change, asking if Mommy could come more. I said we'd see, keeping her hopes grounded. I met with our therapist, discussing how to navigate Claire's return, ensuring Lily's heart was safe. The architect in me saw this as maintenance, not rebuilding, a way to stabilize our lives without erasing the past. The husband, long buried, felt a pang, not for Claire, but for the family we'd been. I let it pass, focusing on the present. That night, I sketched in my study, the community center taking shape, open, enduring, a legacy for Lily. Revenge had been my masterpiece, but this was my purpose. I framed a new photo, Lily in the garden, planting tulips, her smile bright. It joined the one of us at the coast, a gallery of our new life. The past was done, its lessons carved into me, but the future was ours to design. 2 years after the exhibition, our life was a new blueprint, solid and lived in. Lily was 14, her art winning awards, her confidence a quiet fire. She saw Claire weekly, their bond mending through therapy and time. Claire had changed, humbler, working at a community arts program, her ambition tempered by loss. I kept my distance, civil but firm, our interactions brief. She'd never be my Claire again, but she was Lily's mother, and that was enough. My community center opened, its glass and wood a beacon in Portland. At the ribbon cutting, Lily stood beside me, her pride brighter than the applause. Critics called it my best work, but I saw it as hers, a space for kids like her to create, to heal. I'd started dating a quiet woman named Anna, an engineer with a dry wit. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was honest, a step toward trust. Lily liked her, and that was enough. I no longer checked on Ethan or Claire. Paul's last update said Ethan was in California, teaching at a community college, his art forgotten. Claire's program was small but respected, her scandal a faded memory. My revenge had reshaped their lives, but it no longer defined mine. I'd dismantled their world with precision, but the architect in me had moved on, building instead of breaking. Lily and I took a trip to the coast, the same beach from our photo. We built a sandcastle, its towers tall, its moat deep. She laughed, teasing my over-engineered design, and I saw the woman she'd become, strong, kind, unbroken by her mother's mistakes. We watched the tide take the castle, its collapse a reminder. Nothing lasts, but we rebuild. I hugged her, my heart full, the past a distant blueprint. Back home, I hung a new sketch in my study, Lily's latest painting, all color and hope. It was my favorite design, a testament to our resilience. The architect and the husband were one now, their plans aligned. A life of purpose, love, and truth. Revenge had been a fire, cleansing but costly. This Lily's smile, our home, my work, was the foundation I'd always meant to build.